The affluent CEO was enjoying a meal at a restaurant when a small girl slipped him a note that shattered his heart. Before we dive in, please share in the comments your location while you're tuning in. Your encouragement is invaluable to us. Now, take a moment to relax and immerse yourself in this captivating tale. Alexander Reynolds drummed his finger lightly on the edge of his crystal wine glass, his attention drifting from the monotonous chatter enveloping him. The soft glow of the Pinnacle restaurant's dim lighting created an atmosphere rich with intrigue, as investment bankers leaned in, keen to impress the CEO of Reynolds Enterprises. At 42, Alexander had perfected the skill of feigning interest, all the while strategizing 3 steps ahead in his mind. There was a suggestion that we might move forward with the Asian market expansion in the next quarter. Alexander nodded instinctively, his sharp blue eyes surveying the sophisticated space. Every aspect of his life unfolded precisely as intended. Each choice meticulously considered. Each risk assessed meticulously. His empire was constructed with meticulous attention to detail. The waiter glided up to him, quietly taking away the appetizer plate. As the delicate porcelain was raised, Alexander caught sight of something concealed beneath it. A meticulously folded piece of paper. Intrigued, he lifted it with his well-rehearsed grin intact. "Excuse me," he remarked, as he carefully unfolded the note hidden beneath the table. The script was youthful, yet tidy. "My mother, Vanessa, expressed that she couldn't bear the thought of you not knowing about me. Your eyes hold the mark of your birth. She departed from this world last week. I find myself at Crown Hills Orphanage. Yours sincerely, Olivia." Alexander's hand came to an abrupt halt. The chatter surrounding him blurred into an indistinct hum. Vanessa, a name he had kept buried in the recesses of his mind for almost 10 years. Their connection had been fervent, filled with passion, until his job required his complete devotion. He opted for ambition instead of love, never glancing back. "Mr. Reynolds, regarding the projection figures." Alexander rose suddenly, the chair grating against the hardwood floor. "I must take my leave. Urgent family matter." The phrases tasted unfamiliar on his tongue. Kin. He had never employed that rationale previously. 20 minutes later, the sleek Bentley glided to a stop at the entrance of Crown Hills Orphanage. A stark brick structure, its windows radiating a warm yellow light amidst the dark expanse of the night sky. Alexander remained still for a brief moment. His knuckles were pale as they gripped the steering wheel tightly. A weary woman guided him through a corridor to a modest office. The director explained, sliding a folder across her desk, that she had left instructions to reach out to you if anything were to happen to her. Vanessa retained your information, yet she never made contact. Where could she be? Alexander's voice trembled on the edge of restraint. Olivia, the girl who arrived moments later, captivated Alexander completely. An 8-year-old, her blonde hair cascading around a delicate visage. Yet it was her eyes, a vivid blue and deeply captivating, that left him momentarily breathless. His own eyes gazed back, filled with a tentative sense of hope. She stretched out her delicate wrist, showcasing a crescent-shaped birthmark that mirrored his perfectly. "Hello," she murmured softly. "My name is Olivia." The empire builder, a figure who commanded boardrooms with mere eye contact, suddenly found himself at a loss for words. In that instant, Alexander Reynolds understood that all his wealth was insignificant next to the little girl before him, the daughter he had never known existed. Alexander gazed at Olivia, his thoughts swirling as he tried to grasp the truth that lay in front of him. The cramped office at Crown Hills Orphanage felt even more confined as Mrs. Bennet, the director, fidgeted in her seat. "I realize this may come as a surprise, Mr. Reynolds," she remarked, shattering the stillness. "Maybe you would appreciate some time alone with Olivia." Alexander nodded in a daze, his eyes fixed on the girl's face. Mrs. Bennet emerged, gently shutting the door behind her. "What led you to discover me?" he finally inquired, his voice raspy. Olivia's delicate fingers fidgeted with the frayed edge of her worn, blue sweater. Mom held onto a box filled with your letters and a few newspaper clippings. She revealed your picture to me before she... Her voice trembled a bit, just before she fell seriously ill. Alexander settled into a chair, positioning himself to meet the gaze of his child. His offspring. The idea remained elusive and difficult to comprehend. Vanessa never mentioned you, he said, his voice thick with regret and a trace of anger. Why didn't she share that with me? Olivia shrugged, her eyes strikingly reminiscent of his, observing him intently. She mentioned that you were constructing something significant. Items. You possessed your own existence. She hesitated. And that one day, when I had grown old enough, I would have the choice to seek you out. Alexander experienced a sudden, intense ache in his chest. Vanessa shielded him from the burdens of responsibility, all the while at her own expense. It was quintessentially her, overflowing with generosity, even towards the man who had left her behind. When did your mother? He was unable to complete it. What is the sentence? 9 days prior. Olivia responded with the unvarnished honesty characteristic of young ones tackling difficult subjects. Cancer. She battled for an extended period. Mrs. Bennet came back, carrying a folder filled with documents. Vanessa Carter identified you as Olivia's father on her birth certificate, yet she did not seek any formal recognition or assistance. She deftly pushed a stack of papers across her desk. Here are the forms for guardianship. Certainly, we must proceed with the official verification of paternity. While the similarity is... She looked back and forth between them. Very persuasive. Alexander scarcely registered her words. His thoughts were measured with the same accuracy he brought to his professional endeavors. Vanessa had been absent for 9 days. For 9 long days, Olivia found herself in the solitude of an orphanage. The young girl was grieving for her mother, left alone without any family to provide solace. I want to take her home, he stated suddenly. This evening. Mrs. Bennet's eyes widened in astonishment. Mr. Reynolds, I value your eagerness, but we must adhere to the established protocols. I have a skilled team of legal professionals ready to manage any procedures. Alexander interrupted. However, I refuse to leave my daughter here for another night. Olivia's eyes grew a touch larger, observing intently. This interaction speaks for itself. Mrs. Bennet advised against hurrying into this matter. Transitioning into parenthood in an instant can be quite daunting, particularly for someone with your way of living. Could you clarify what you mean by that? Alexander's voice held a sharpness that had unsettled numerous competitors in the business arena. Well. Mrs. Bennet pressed on with unwavering determination. Raising a child demands your full attention, a great deal of patience, and the ability to place their needs ahead of your own. Your standing implies an unwavering commitment to your craft. Alexander experienced a sudden surge of annoyance, quickly followed by an unanticipated sense of uncertainty. She was right. His existence revolved around conference calls, international flights, and grueling 18-hour workdays. In that existence, a child found no room to thrive. He cast his gaze upon Olivia once more. She remained still, her petite suitcase neatly packed beside her, as if she had been anticipating, yearning, yet bracing herself for letdown. I'll find a way, he declared with certainty. Where should I put my signature? After 2 hours and numerous phone calls, Alexander guided Olivia to his car. Temporary guardianship documents obtained. His assistant was already preparing the penthouse for his arrival. A young one. It was an endeavor for which it had never been intended. As they neared the Bentley, Olivia paused, uncertainty flickering in her mind. Is there an issue? Alexander inquired. She gazed at him, her face revealing her raw vulnerability. Do you truly desire my presence? The question took him by surprise, striking in its straightforwardness and impact. Alexander knelt, locking eyes with her. Olivia, he remarked, selecting his words with precision. I was unaware of your existence until this evening. I feel completely lost when it comes to being a father. He inhaled deeply. Indeed, my desire for you is undeniable. We'll navigate this journey side by side. For the first time, a faint smile graced her lips. All right, she replied with a straightforward tone, and got into the car. As Alexander navigated the road ahead, a future beyond his wildest dreams loomed, and he clutched the steering wheel with a grip so firm that his knuckles turned pale. He was filled with dread. Yet, another force was rising, a resolute commitment that this child, who bore his gaze and lineage, would never question her belonging in his realm once more. Alexander's penthouse spanned the uppermost 2 levels of a modern downtown building. Tall structure. A testament to contemporary elegance and careful craftsmanship. Each item of furniture and every piece of art had been meticulously chosen to convey an air of achievement and elegance. Everything was in perfect order. Everything held significance. Up to this point. When the elevator doors slid open to reveal his foyer, Alexander observed Olivia as she absorbed the details of her environment. Her eyes grew large as she took in the floor-to-ceiling windows revealing the dazzling city skyline, the sleek furnishings in muted tones of gray and black, the abstract sculptures priced higher than many houses. Is this your home? She inquired, her voice barely a whisper in the expansive emptiness. Indeed, Alexander responded, unexpectedly perceiving his home from a fresh perspective. There were no photographs, no personal touches, nothing that suggested a life beyond work. Olivia clutched her small suitcase tighter, looking impossibly tiny against the backdrop of his carefully curated world. Let me show you your room, he said, leading her down a hallway. The guest bedroom was as impersonal as the rest of the penthouse, all clean lines and neutral tones. Alexander flicked on the lights, revealing a king-sized bed that would dwarf Olivia's small frame and windows that offered the same spectacular view as the living room. It's very big, Olivia observed, setting her suitcase carefully on the floor. We'll make it more suitable tomorrow, Alexander promised, realizing he had no idea what a child's room should look like. Do you need help unpacking? She shook her head. I don't have much. The statement hung between them, a reminder of the vast differences in their lives. Alexander took a moment to clear his throat. Do you feel a craving for something to eat? Olivia gave a nonchalant shrug. A small amount. In the kitchen, Alexander gazed into the depths of his refrigerator, where expensive wine and gourmet takeout containers reigned supreme, leaving little else to discover. He found himself uncertain about the dietary preferences of children. Following a brief, uncomfortable pause, he extended his hand toward his phone. I will place an order for something. What are your preferences? Anything is fine, Olivia replied, balancing delicately on a bar stool, her legs swinging just above the ground. They dined on Thai cuisine at his table, a piece of furniture that had yet to host a genuine family gathering. Alexander observed as Olivia meticulously sliced her food into tiny morsels, her dining etiquette remarkably refined for someone so young. Was it your mother who showed you how to eat that way? He inquired, instantly wishing he hadn't brought up Vanessa so nonchalantly. Olivia gave a slight nod. Mom emphasized that good manners hold greater value than extravagant possessions. The profound insight resonated with Alexander on a deep level. Vanessa had consistently prioritized genuineness over superficiality. A heavy silence lingered in the air until Olivia broke it once more. Excuse me, Mr. Reynolds. You can call me Alexander, he said swiftly. Alternatively. He paused, uncertainty flickering in his eyes. Do whatever brings you ease. She observed him with those unsettlingly recognizable blue eyes. Alexander, she tried out the name. Am I here temporarily, or is this my new home? For the better. The inquiry took him by surprise. Amidst the chaos of the evening, he had not contemplated what lay ahead. This is your home now, Olivia, he found himself declaring with a conviction that belied his true feelings. As long as you desire. She appeared to contemplate his words thoughtfully before giving a nod. Understood. As Alexander lingered in the doorway of the guest room, observing Olivia as she meticulously arranged her sparse belongings, a handful of clothes, a well-loved teddy bear, and a cherished photo of Vanessa, he sensed an unfamiliar sensation constricting in his chest. For a man who had dedicated his existence to mastery, who had constructed a dominion on deliberate choices, Alexander Reynolds had just taken the most spontaneous step of his life unfolded before him, a vast expanse of uncertainty, and he was completely in the dark about what lay ahead. Alexander found himself unable to drift into slumber. His thoughts circled back to the day's occurrences, the note, the orphanage, those blue eyes that reflected his own. After hours of restless tossing and turning, he finally surrendered and strolled into his home office, a realm filled with accolades and professional publications. In the bottom drawer of his desk, securely locked for years, lay a box he had never quite managed to part with. He paused before lifting the lid, fully aware that what lay inside would tear open scars he had long told himself were mended. Within were the echoes of his existence with Vanessa, concert tickets, handwritten notes, a watercolor sketch she had created of his laughter, a sound that had become a rare occurrence. Alexander picked up a faded, well-loved photograph. Vanessa stood on the beach, her blonde hair dancing in the breeze, her smile shining brightly. She embodied warmth and light, her creative spirit contrasting sharply with his systematic thinker. He whispered to the photograph, a blend of anger and grief in his voice, "You should have told me. Vanessa, she has spent 9 days in solitude." 9 days. The recollection of their last disagreement emerged with excruciating vividness. Vanessa stood in his apartment, tears flowing down her cheeks. "It's time to make a decision, Alex. Your dominion or a life shared with me. I can no longer be the one who waits." He selected his company with unwavering certainty. Reynolds Enterprises was navigating a pivotal stage of expansion. He remained undistracted, unable to split his attention. When he finally understood the magnitude of his loss, his pride held him captive, forbidding him from glancing back. Now, after 9 years, he realized that the decision had exacted a price far greater than he had ever anticipated. A gentle noise from the entrance drew him out of his reverie. Olivia stood there in baggy pajamas that had been quickly bought by someone from his team. Her blonde hair, Vanessa's hair, must be from sleep. Apologies escaped her lips in a hurried whisper. A sound caught my attention. With a swift motion, Alexander shut the box. "Everything is fine." Struggling to find rest. She shook her head, her gaze drifting to the photograph he still clutched. "That's my mother." "Indeed," Alexander murmured gently. Long ago, Olivia stepped into the room with a tentative air, as though unsure of her reception. She held on to a picture of you as well, right by her bed. A sensation constricted within Alexander's chest. "Did she really?" With a nod, Olivia settled onto the leather sofa facing his desk. "She mentioned that you had significant matters to attend to, that you were creating something substantial." Her fingers glided over the leather, creating intricate patterns. "She remarked that my eyes resembled yours." Alexander examined her face, the subtle contours that were distinctly Vanessa's, yet those eyes, undeniably his own. What other legacies had he imparted to this child he had never met? His resolve. That unyielding pride of his. Did she really? He started, unsure of how to articulate his thoughts. Did she mention me frequently? Olivia pondered this. Occasionally, particularly when I inquired. She didn't hold any anger towards you, if that's what you're curious about. Yet, in Alexander's mind, she ought to have been. She was completely justified in her feelings. She mentioned that you would make a wonderful father one day. Olivia pressed on. When you were prepared, the words struck with the force of a tangible impact. Did Vanessa have any inkling that her time was running out? Had she, in some mysterious way, arranged this encounter from afar, offering him one last opportunity to validate her beliefs. "It's late," he murmured softly, struggling to navigate the surge of emotions that loomed over him. "It would be beneficial for you to consider resting for a while." Olivia gave a slight nod and gracefully descended from the couch. At the threshold, she hesitated. "Is that you, Alexander?" "Indeed. I'm thrilled to have discovered you." Once she departed, Alexander remained still, the photograph clutched tightly in his hand. For a man who took great pride in seizing every opportunity, he had overlooked the most crucial one of all, being present for Vanessa and their daughter. Tomorrow will bring a change. Tomorrow, he would start to set things straight. Morning dawned, bringing with it the stark truth that Alexander Reynolds, a titan of billion-dollar deals, was utterly unprepared for the challenges of raising an 8-year-old girl. He lingered in his kitchen, gazing into the refrigerator as though it might miraculously conjure a breakfast suitable for a child. "Do you happen to have any cereal available?" Olivia approached, dressed in yesterday's attire, her hair gathered into a slightly askew ponytail. Alexander shut the refrigerator door with a soft click. "I don't believe that's the case, I typically stick to coffee." Olivia nodded with a grave expression, as if this validated a suspicion she had long held about him. "Mom mentioned that it's hard to think clearly without having breakfast first." The seemingly harmless remark, uttered with such ease, caused a tightness in his chest. What other little gems of insight had Vanessa revealed about him? He admitted she was correct. "How about we head out for breakfast first, and then we can pick up a few things you need?" After an hour, they strolled through a department store, an entirely unfamiliar experience for Alexander. He usually entrusted personal shoppers with those trivial responsibilities. In the midst of children's clothing, he experienced a peculiar sense of vulnerability. "Choose anything that catches your fancy," he remarked, waving his hand aimlessly in the surrounding space. Olivia glanced up at him, a hint of hesitation in her eyes. "Is there anything at all?" "Absolutely." She bit her lip, then navigated the racks with care, her fingers brushing against a sleeve or a collar, yet she chose nothing. After several minutes of uncertainty, Alexander came to understand the issue at hand. "Olivia," he spoke softly, lowering himself to meet her gaze. "There's no need for concern regarding the expense." She moved restlessly. "My mother always advised me to look at the price tag before anything else." Another sharp turn of fate. As he focused on building his fortune, Vanessa dedicated her time to instilling in their daughter the importance of financial prudence. "That was good advice," he acknowledged. "But today is different. This is necessary, not extra." Gradually, Olivia started to choose things, sensible selections primarily, devoid of excess. She consulted him before every addition, her gaze searching for validation until he firmly stated that she no longer needed to seek his permission. As they navigated through the various departments collecting necessary items, Alexander sensed a growing unease, feeling more and more like a fish out of water. What more do kids require? Educational materials, resources, literature, playthings. His assistant had taken care of arranging for a suitable bed to be delivered, but what about the other elements that make up a child's room? In the toys section, Olivia's eyes sparkled with excitement as she discovered an art set complete with paints, brushes, and a charming little easel. "Are you fond of painting?" Alexander inquired, fully aware of what the response would be. She gave a slight nod. "My mother was my teacher. She mentioned it assists in expressing emotions on the page when articulating them becomes challenging." Without a moment's pause, Alexander placed the art set into their cart. "That was passed down to you from her. Her talent was remarkable." Olivia acknowledged gently. At times, she parted with her paintings to make ends meet when finances were strained. Every casual revelation served as a poignant reminder of the stark contrasts in their lives, his overflowing with abundance, while theirs were marked by meticulous financial planning. In this moment, two worlds were on a collision course, with an 8-year-old girl standing at the intersection. Back at the penthouse, Alexander observed Olivia meticulously arranging her new possessions, hanging clothes with care, sorting books by size, and positioning her art supplies by the window to capture the best light, reminiscent of Vanessa's own methods. "Is this acceptable?" she inquired, motioning towards the modest area she had staked out in his pristine residence. Alexander gazed at the vibrant splashes of color that now enlivened the once sterile guest room: purple bedding, a blue lamp, an array of colorful books, and art supplies scattered about. "It's absolutely fine," he stated honestly. "This space truly embodies the essence of home." Olivia smiled, a subtle yet hesitant smile that undeniably changed her expression. In that instant, Alexander understood that although he was meeting her fundamental needs, she was addressing an emptiness in his life that he hadn't even acknowledged existed. 3 days into their new arrangement, a subtle rhythm started to emerge. Alexander had meticulously arranged his agenda, assigning tasks to others and delaying travel plans, decisions that would have seemed impossible just a week prior. The sudden shift left his executive team perplexed, yet he provided little in the way of clarification. Olivia remained a well-guarded secret, and he was determined to maintain that secrecy for as long as he could. Every morning, Alexander rose with the dawn, tackled important emails, and then made a straightforward breakfast while waiting for Olivia to come out of her room. Their meals unfolded in a tranquil manner, yet the quietude had started to feel more comfortable. "I need to enroll you in school," Alexander declared, his voice cutting through the clinking of cutlery as they shared toast and eggs. The education coordinator suggested a variety of options. Olivia maneuvered her scrambled eggs across the plate. "Will it happen shortly? Do you long for the days of school?" he inquired, coming to the understanding that he was largely unfamiliar with her scholarly pursuits. She gave a slight shrug. "I enjoy the process of learning, yet children occasionally pose inquiries when circumstances change." Alexander grasped the situation right away, grappling with inquiries about her mother and the unexpected reality of cohabiting with a father who had been absent for 8 years. "He assured us that we would discover a great place. A place where you can truly relax." That evening, as Alexander toiled in his home office, a sharp cry pierced the stillness. He sprang from his chair and dashed to Olivia's room, his heart racing. She writhed in her slumber, tears cascading down her cheeks. "Mother," she wept. "Please don't leave." Alexander stood motionless in the doorway, struck by the deep sorrow in her voice. This exceeded his skill set. Neither spreadsheets nor market projections could provide assistance in this situation. "Olivia," he murmured gently, making her way to the bed. "Olivia, it's time to rise and shine. It's merely a vision of what could be." Her eyes snapped open, filled with confusion and dread. For a brief instant, she appeared bewildered by his arrival, as though she were anticipating another's company. Then reality came crashing down. Apologies escaped her lips as she dabbed at her tears with tiny, clenched hands. "No need to apologize," Alexander said, perched uncomfortably on the edge of her bed. "Nightmares are a common experience." She nodded, drawing her knees close to her chest. The quiet lingered in the air until Alexander, feeling uncertain, decided to reach out and gently grasp her delicate hand in his. To his astonishment, Olivia remained close. Her fingers intertwined with his, gripping tightly as if seeking stability. They remained in that moment, linked by a gentle touch, until her breath became steady and the tightness in her shoulders began to fade. "Would you care for a glass of water?" he finally inquired. She gently shook her head. "Would you mind staying a little longer? A bit more extended?" In that moment, Alexander Reynolds, the CEO of a vast enterprise, found himself cradling his daughter's hand, the weight of client calls and quarterly projections slipping away as she drifted back into slumber. The following morning, Alexander discovered a drawing on his desk, an endearingly imperfect yet unmistakable portrait of himself, crafted with meticulous strokes of colored pencil. At the bottom, Olivia had inscribed, "Thank you for being here." Alexander examined the portrait, observing how it reflected his serious demeanor while infusing a gentleness into his eyes that he hadn't recognized in mirrors for years. Was that truly her perception of him? Or how she wished he might become. He carefully framed the drawing and set it on his desk, marking the first genuinely personal item to grace that space. Later that day, during a briefing, his assistant Rebecca made an observation. "Fresh addition to the collection?" she inquired nonchalantly. "Something intriguing." "Improved," Alexander responded. "An invaluable treasure." That evening, for the first time since Olivia's arrival, Alexander felt a genuine smile spread across his face as he listened to her passionately describe a character from her book. A delicate bond had emerged, as fragile as a whisper, yet undeniably genuine. Neither of them understood just how profoundly it would transform their lives. On a Tuesday morning, the shield Alexander had built around their newly established routine shattered. His phone vibrated with pressing notifications from his public relations director. "Reach out without delay. News unfolding regarding your daughter." Alexander felt a sinking sensation in his stomach. He had anticipated this moment, yet he wished for a little more time. It's time for Olivia to adapt. It was time for him to devise a plan to protect her from the unavoidable examination. "Mr. Reynolds," as stated by his PR director during the call. "A feature in the Daily Chronicle is set to be published tomorrow. Secret love child of a billionaire revealed. Images of you and Olivia at the department store exist. A statement is required." Alexander cast a fleeting look at the shut door of Olivia's bedroom. She was preparing for her first day at Westridge Academy, an elite private school where he wished she could discover a sense of stability. "Do not release anything," he commanded. "Neither confirmations nor denials are present. I will take care of this on my own." As Olivia stepped out in her new uniform, the navy blazer adorned with the school crest, pleated skirt, and her hair perfectly brushed, Alexander was overwhelmed by a wave of protectiveness that he had never felt before. "You seem quite formal," he remarked, trying to keep the mood light. She fidgeted with her collar, a wave of anxiety washing over her. "Is it all right if I feel afraid?" Her question's straightforward sincerity took him by surprise. In his realm, acknowledging fear was a forbidden act, a frailty to be hidden away at any price. "Absolutely," he replied. Embarking on fresh journeys often brings a sense of apprehension. As they drove along, he wrestled with the decision of whether to inform her about the media coverage. Should she get ready in advance, or would that just heighten her nerves about the first day? "Olivia," he started with caution, "there could be a few. Attention is directed towards us, particularly regarding your cohabitation with me." She lifted her gaze from her lap. "What type of focus?" "Occasionally, the press features narratives about my endeavors and aspects of my private life." Realization flickered in her gaze. "Because you hold significance, because I possess wealth," he adjusted softly. "There exists a distinction." Upon their arrival at Westridge, Alexander escorted her to the administration building. Noticing the inquisitive looks from fellow parents, the headmistress offered them a warm greeting. Yet, he sensed the delicate change in her attitude as she acknowledged his presence. The somewhat more aligned stance, the intentionally crafted smile. "We are thrilled to have Olivia join us," she expressed. "I've organized for our student ambassador to give her a tour." A girl around Olivia's age emerged, her eyes sparkling with confidence. "Hello, my name is Madison. We share the same class." As Olivia got ready to depart with Madison, she paused for a moment, then swiftly embraced Alexander by wrapping her arms around his waist in a fleeting hug. "Goodbye," she murmured softly before trailing behind her guide. The unforeseen act rendered Alexander momentarily speechless. Their first embrace was clumsy and brief, yet undeniably meaningful. By afternoon, the narrative had taken off dramatically. Alexander's security team has informed him of photographers positioned outside his office building and the penthouse. The phone buzzed incessantly, filled with calls from board members anxious about the company's reputation and investors fretting over his concentration. As he arrived to collect Olivia from school, she slipped quietly into the car. "What was your experience like on your first day?" he inquired. She gazed out the window. Madison inquired whether it was indeed true that you didn't desire me until after my mom passed away. Alexander's grip on the steering wheel grew firmer. Could you repeat that? I expressed my uncertainty. Her voice was delicate. Is that really the case? The inquiry lingered in the air, haunting in its straightforwardness. Traffic inched by as Alexander wrestled with his thoughts, searching for the perfect expression. He finally spoke, revealing his ignorance about you. Had I been aware, the outcome would have changed entirely. How distinct, she urged. Alexander gazed at his daughter, genuinely, and spoke from a depth of sincerity he seldom reached. I'm uncertain, Olivia. However, I am pleased that you have arrived at this moment. It may not have been flawless, but it was honest. In a realm where surface impressions frequently overshadowed the truth, maybe that was precisely what they both craved above all else. Alexander sat in his office, gazing at the acquisition proposal that would solidify Reynolds Enterprises as the leading power in global markets. The agreement in Singapore embodied all his aspirations: international growth, unmatched profit margins, and the chairmanship of the board that he had long desired. Only one issue remained. Finalizing the agreement would necessitate his presence in Asia for a minimum of 3 weeks, 3 weeks apart from Olivia. Excuse me, Mr. Reynolds. Rebecca lingered in the doorway. The board awaits in the conference room. Alexander gave a slight nod, adjusting his tie with precision. Has the school reached out? Nothing today, Rebecca responded. After a moment of hesitation, she mentioned that Olivia's art show remains scheduled for next Friday. Would you like me to modify your schedule? An exhibition of creativity. Olivia brought it up only a single time, nonchalantly during breakfast. My artwork has been chosen for the student showcase. She had not inquired about his attendance, nor had she emphasized the date or time. It seemed she was shielding herself from the possibility of being let down. Make sure it stays on the calendar, Alexander insisted with conviction. 12 eager faces in the boardroom fixed their gaze on him as he stepped inside. These individuals had only encountered the relentless, unyielding Alexander Reynolds, a figure for whom personal matters were never a consideration in his business choices. Gentlemen, he commenced. The acquisition in Singapore. The presentation was executed with precision, and the projections were nothing short of perfect. Alexander conveyed his strategy with his characteristic confidence, though a fragment of his thoughts lingered in a school art room, where an 8-year-old girl was expressing herself through her mother's artistic flair. The CFO underscored the necessity for prompt action regarding the timeline. Your presence in Singapore is required by Monday for a minimum of 3 weeks to personally oversee the transition. Monday. The exhibition took place on Friday. Alexander had the opportunity to attend the show and still reach Singapore in time. But who would look after Olivia during his absence? What message would he convey by departing so quickly after assuring her of his support? Is Mr. Reynolds available? The voice of the board chairman interrupted his contemplation. Is the timeline satisfactory? The former Alexander would have agreed instantly. Commerce has always taken precedence. But at this moment, I need 24 hours, he said, surprising even himself. I have some personal matters that require my attention. Expressions of bewilderment danced across multiple faces. Alexander Reynolds was devoid of personal considerations. That evening, he discovered Olivia seated at the dining table. The assignments lay scattered in front of her. She glanced up momentarily as he walked in, then focused back on her math problems. How was school today? He inquired, placing his briefcase on the floor. Well, we had a science quiz, and I scored an A. That's excellent, Alexander remarked, loosening his tie. Olivia, I would like to discuss something with you. She placed her pencil aside, her expression instantly becoming defensive. Alexander identified the look. It was the very one he relied on when gearing up for challenging negotiations. He started by discussing a business scenario in Singapore. The company finds it crucial. It is time for you to leave. She completed the thought for him, her tone deliberately even. It would last approximately 3 weeks. Olivia acknowledged with a nod, redirecting her focus to her homework. Understood. Rebecca might choose to remain with you, or we could make arrangements. It's perfectly all right, she interjected. I comprehend. Yet her swift acceptance felt more like a letdown than anything else. It was acceptance. The reaction of a young one who is used to seeing grown-ups prioritize other matters above their needs. Your art show is scheduled for next Friday, Alexander remarked. I've noted it on my calendar. Olivia glanced upward, a look of authentic astonishment sweeping across her features before she meticulously concealed it. Your presence isn't necessary, it's really not a significant matter. It is to me, Alexander responded. For a brief instant, a glimmer of hope sparkled in her eyes before the weight of experience dulled it. With a casual shrug, she turned her attention back to her math problems. Later that night, Alexander stood at his office window, gazing out at the city where he had crafted his empire. For the first time, the shining skyscrapers and calculated acquisitions appeared empty, mere achievements when placed alongside the pure trust reflected in a child's gaze. The Alexander Reynolds of just 2 weeks prior would have never dared to question his journey. Yet that man had never grasped his daughter's hand after a night filled with fears, nor gazed into his own reflection, silently questioning, will you stand apart from those who abandon me? Alexander gazed at his laptop screen, his eyes weary and strained from exhaustion. The acquisition documents from Singapore swirled in front of him as he struggled to juggle the preparation for the most significant deal of his career, all while attempting to stay present for Olivia. For days, he had been navigating 2 distinct realities. Business mogul by day, an endearingly clumsy dad by night. The fragile equilibrium shattered at 9:47 p.m., amidst a pivotal video conference with Singaporean investors, Mr. Reynolds addressing the regulatory issues in Section 12. The investor's voice pierced the stillness of Alexander's home office. A sharp cry echoed from down the hall, breaking his concentration. Alexander halted, his focus abruptly divided between the lucrative business prospect worth billions and the troubling cries of his daughter. Just a moment, he said sharply, silencing the call before hurrying to Olivia's room. She sat upright in bed, her face marked by tears. Breath comes in short gasps, another nightmare unfolds. Olivia, he murmured gently, taking a seat beside her. Everything is okay, you are secure. Olivia murmured, she was there. Mom was present, and then she vanished, leaving me searching for her in every corner. Alexander hesitated, his hand landing awkwardly on her shoulder, fully conscious of the call waiting for him, of the countless lives teetering on the edge of uncertainty. It was merely a figment of imagination. The earpiece buzzed with relentless urgency. The investors were growing restless. I need to wrap up this meeting, he stated, already on his feet. Make an effort to return to slumber. Let's have a conversation in the morning. Olivia's expression dimmed, yet she gave a subtle nod. I apologize for the interruption. It's fine, Alexander replied. Already sidetracked by the buzzing earpiece. Kindly remain in bed this time. As soon as the words escaped his lips, he realized he had committed a grave error. Olivia's expression tightened abruptly. The fleeting vulnerability gave way to a meticulous emptiness that felt hauntingly known. It was a reflection of his own defense mechanism. I will, she said softly, drawing the covers closer around her. Wishing you a peaceful night. Alexander refocused on his call, redirecting his attention to acquisition terms and market projections. He obtained the preliminary agreement, a triumph that ought to have filled him with joy. Instead, he felt an emptiness within, the memory of Olivia's shut demeanor lingering in his mind. The days that followed revealed a quiet yet undeniable change. Olivia maintained a steadfast politeness, responding to his inquiries with succinct yes or no answers, ensuring the dialogue remained brief. She ceased to share the little things about school, no longer revealing her drawings to him. The delicate bond they had forged appeared to crumble, reducing them to mere strangers coexisting in the same space. As the child welfare caseworker made her way for the scheduled visit, Alexander found himself unexpectedly taken aback. "This is standard procedure," Mrs. Chen explained, placing her briefcase on the coffee table. "I must evaluate Olivia's adaptation and confirm that the living arrangement is suitable." Alexander nodded, a wave of unease washing over him in a manner that board meetings had never stirred within him before. "Absolutely." Mrs. Chen engaged in a private conversation with Olivia, while Alexander lingered in his office, feigning productivity but truly focused on deciphering the hushed tones of their dialogue. "Mr. Reynolds," Mrs. Chen remarked later, her demeanor poised yet tinged with worry. "Olivia appears to be distant. When I inquired whether she feels a sense of belonging here, her response was vague and uncertain." Alexander felt a tightness in his stomach. "She is finding her way. We are both." "I see," Mrs. Chen responded softly. "However, kids require a sense of stability and emotional support. Your itinerary seems quite intense, particularly with the approaching journey." "Before I depart, I plan to attend her art show," Alexander remarked. With a keen sense of observation, Mrs. Chen took note. "That's encouraging. Nonetheless, I have some reservations regarding these 3 weeks apart so soon in your relationship. Have you thought about how Olivia could see this as abandonment, particularly after the loss of her mother?" The inquiry hit Alexander with an unforeseen intensity. He had not thought of it from that perspective. He had viewed the trip through the lens of professional obligation, rather than recognizing it as yet another setback for Olivia. "I'll be video calling daily," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. Mrs. Chen's demeanor was unchanging. "Mr. Reynolds, as a guardian, frequently faces the challenge of navigating tough decisions. At times, what seems like the best choice for a business may not align with the best choice for parenting." Once she departed, Alexander lingered in the corridor outside Olivia's room, attuned to the stillness that enveloped him. For the first time in his career, he questioned whether success had exacted too steep a toll and if he was on the verge of repeating the same error. "I'm Olivia Carter." It was a situation that persisted until last week when Mr. Reynolds, Alexander, informed me that I could adopt his last name if I so desired. I mentioned that I would consider it. Mom might be open to the idea if I decided to switch it up. She often remarked that no matter what, he remained my father. I conceal my cherished drawing beneath my pillow. It's a moment captured of Alexander and me, hand in hand, standing before the impressive glass structure that is our home. I put in a lot of effort, but I'm hesitant to share it with him. What if he isn't fond of it? Or even more troubling, what if he only claims to like it out of obligation? Ms. Peterson, my art teacher, believes I possess a unique gift. Just like your mother, she remarked yesterday after I completed my painting for the showcase. It stands tall on the edge of the cliff, the very one Mom and I explored last summer, before her illness made travel impossible. She remarked that the lighthouse brought to mind Alexander, standing proudly and illuminating the way for others, yet remaining somewhat distanced from all that surrounded it. Your painting exhibits impressive depth for someone so young, Ms. Peterson remarked. However, I refrain from revealing that I possess a deep understanding of depth. Observing a beloved person fade away gradually each day reveals profound emotions that resonate deeply within you. I'm curious if Alexander will be leaving as well. Not in the way Mom did. I understand that it's distinct. Yet, in his unique manner. He puts in so much effort at times, like when he prepares breakfast or inquires about school, yet his phone constantly buzzes and his thoughts appear distant. That night, when I had that unsettling dream and disrupted his meeting, I caught a glimpse of something in his eyes that filled me with fear. As if I were a puzzle he couldn't quite figure out. Today at school, Madison inquired about what it's like to have a billionaire father. I merely shrugged. How do you convey that you'd give up all the extravagant things just to have someone who truly desires your presence? When the social worker arrived, she inquired whether I felt content here. I found myself at a loss for words. At times, it seems as though this might actually come together. Such moments, like when Alexander read to me or when he framed my drawing of him, linger in my memory. Yet, I recall how my mother often remarked that Alexander cherished his craft above all else. He glances at his phone when it rings, as if being drawn away from a fleeting duty back to the essence of his existence. The trip to Singapore fills me with apprehension. Miss Rebecca is pleasant, yet she doesn't belong to the family. Once he departs, will he come to understand that life flows more smoothly without an 8-year-old adding layers of complexity? My mother always advised me not to have high expectations of him. He follows his own journey, she'd say to me. Yet, there are moments in the quiet of night when I find myself envisioning what it might be like if he chose to include me in his journey as well. Yesterday, I caught a glimpse of him engaged in a heated phone conversation regarding the trip to Singapore. I grasped the implications, he remarked, his tone laced with exasperation. However, the timeline presents challenges. Was he referring to me? Am I the issue with his timeline? I strive for excellence, maintaining a neat space, completing my assignments proactively, and being mindful of my volume. I think that if I stay out of trouble, perhaps he'll want to hold on to me. Yet, it can be utterly draining to navigate the delicate balance of being both unseen and seen simultaneously. The exhibition is scheduled for next Friday. I didn't mention its significance, yet it truly is. My mother always attended every school event, even while navigating life in a wheelchair. I constantly remind myself to temper my expectations regarding Alexander's arrival, yet there's a lingering part of me that can't resist the urge to wonder. What if, just this once, he decides to prioritize me over his work? Last night, I unveiled the concealed drawing and enriched it with additional details. A yebeo, a subtle smile gracing his lips, the sun casting its warm glow above us. Ms. Peterson believes that art enables us to shape the reality we desire. I can't say for certain if that's accurate, but I continue to create regardless. My mother once shared with me that love transcends mere emotion. It's a decision you arrive at. Each and every day. I'm curious if Alexander is aware of that yet. Alexander found himself in the boardroom, encircled by eager gazes. The journey to Singapore is set for Saturday morning. Contracts were meticulously crafted, and the fate of Reynolds Enterprises teetered on a precipice. All was unfolding as intended. An emergency meeting of the board has been convened. Chairman Walter Hargrove commenced, his voice resonating with a commanding presence, to discuss the issues surrounding the timeline for the Singapore acquisition. Alexander adjusted his tie, his mind racing with strategies for his defense. He had expected some resistance after asking for slight modifications to support Olivia's art show. To be straightforward, Alexander, Walter continued, several board members have voiced their worries regarding your dedication to this acquisition in light of your recent personal circumstances. The air was thick with an uneasy quiet. All those gathered were now aware of Olivia. The narrative had circulated through all business outlets, accompanied by conjectures regarding the potential impact of Alexander's hidden daughter on the company's trajectory. My dedication to Reynolds Enterprises is unwavering, Alexander responded calmly. The minor change in schedule does not affect our strategic stance. Richard Blackwell, the most assertive member of the board, leaned in with intensity. With all due respect, Alexander, this company was not established on minor changes to the schedule. It was constructed on unwavering commitment and a singular vision, traits you have consistently demonstrated up to this point. The suggestion lingered ominously in the atmosphere. Alexander experienced a well-known rush of protective pride. These men had observed him give up everything for this company. They anticipated nothing short of that now. What precisely are you proposing, Richard? He inquired, his tone unsettlingly serene. We propose, Walter interjected, that you clarify your priorities. Either fully embrace this acquisition, which entails leaving for Singapore tomorrow and staying for the necessary 3 weeks. Or maybe think about taking a brief pause from operations during this time. Transition phase in your personal life. The ultimatum was presented with a veneer of corporate civility, yet Alexander saw through it, understanding it as a veiled threat. Demonstrate your allegiance or forfeit your influence. Just as he was about to reply, his phone buzzed with a vibration. The digits of the school's number illuminated the screen. Alexander seldom accepted calls during board meetings, yet an inexplicable urge, perhaps intuition, compelled him to step away. Mr. Reynolds, the school counselor, spoke with a steady tone, laced with worry. An incident has occurred involving Olivia. She was deeply distressed during a family tree activity in class. She's here with me at the moment, yet she's inquiring about you. Alexander felt a constriction in his chest. I'll arrive shortly. He stepped back into the boardroom, his hand instinctively moving towards his suit jacket. Gentlemen, I must take my leave. Urgent family matter. Richard let out a derisive laugh. This is precisely what troubles us. Alexander halted at the threshold, a profound change stirring deep within him. The meeting is now concluded and will reconvene tomorrow. I will provide you with my decision shortly. Half an hour later, Alexander found himself in the school counselor's office, where Olivia was curled up in her seat. In a chair, her petite figure curled inward, eyes swollen and red from tears. What transpired? He inquired softly. The advisor elaborated. The class was crafting intricate family trees. When another student inquired about why Olivia was solely depicting herself and her mother, an unfortunate conversation unfolded regarding absent fathers and orphans. Alexander felt a pang of discomfort, picturing Olivia confronting those questions by herself. Shall we head back home? Olivia murmured, appearing more fragile than he had ever noticed before. Residence. Neither your house nor the apartment. Residence. The importance was not overlooked by Alexander. The journey. The room remained silent until Olivia finally broke the stillness with her words. Are you upset about having to leave work? Alexander cast a quick look her way, taken aback. Why would you assume that? She gave a slight shrug, her gaze drifting toward the window. Mom mentioned that your craft holds the utmost significance for you. The words pierced deeply, for they held an undeniable truth. For years, nothing had been more significant than constructing his domain, demonstrating his worth, and amassing triumph and influence. Everything evolves, Olivia, he remarked thoughtfully. Individuals evolve. Returning to the penthouse, Alexander prepared hot chocolate, a comforting ritual his mother had once shared with him during his childhood. At the kitchen counter, they shared a moment, an unexpected duo discovering solace in the everyday routine. Olivia confessed that she was unsure about what to include on her family tree. Her fingers wrapped gently around her mug. Other children have their grandparents, brothers and sisters, and furry companions. I just had my mother. What comes next? Her voice faded, the unsaid sorrow lingering in the air between them. Now you possess me, Alexander murmured gently. Olivia lifted her gaze, examining him with those striking blue eyes, so reminiscent of his own. How long will it be? The inquiry pierced through every facade, stripping away all corporate niceties. This was the genuine negotiation, the one that truly held significance. As long as you require my presence, he replied. Forever. Is it worth it, even if it means overlooking significant business matters? Alexander contemplated the upcoming board meeting, the ultimatum looming over him, the Singapore deal, and all the markers of success he had dedicated his life to chasing. He gazed at the small, fierce individual who bore his blood and Vanessa's spirit, someone who had already endured too much loss. Indeed, he affirmed with confidence. Even so. That evening, once Olivia had settled into her slumber, Alexander found himself in his office, gazing intently at the framed sketch she had created of him. His phone vibrated incessantly. Board members, investors, the Singapore team, all seeking clarity, assurances, resolutions. Rebecca stood framed in the doorway. The board anticipates your decision by morning, Alexander acknowledged. I understand. Greetings. She paused for a moment, then spoke with unexpected honesty. For 7 years, I have collaborated with you. Your resolve in business decisions has always been unwavering. I've never had a daughter before, he said plainly. Rebecca offered a faint smile. I believe you're making the right decision, no matter which path you choose. Once she departed, Alexander reached for his phone and called Walter. As the chairman responded, Alexander maintained the same assertive tone he had previously employed. Establish his enterprise. I will be present at my daughter's art show this Friday. Following that, I will connect with the team in Singapore through a video conference. This acquisition can succeed without my physical presence, and you are well aware of that. A lengthy silence ensued. Before Walter responded, the board would not be happy. Then they can vote me out, Alexander said with a composed demeanor. However, I have a feeling that our shareholders would favor a CEO who can creatively navigate challenges instead of just pushing through them forcefully. He concluded the call with a sense of relief that he hadn't experienced in years. Tomorrow may usher in consequences, possibly of a grave nature. Yet this evening, Alexander Reynolds was fully aware that he had successfully navigated the ultimate challenge. Alexander lingered in the threshold of Olivia's bedroom, observing her as she meticulously arranged her art supplies in preparation for the forthcoming showcase. Her delicate hands worked with care, organizing brushes by size and paints by hue, a systematic method that echoed his own style. Prepared for what lies ahead? He inquired. Olivia raised her gaze, her demeanor a blend of caution and optimism. I believe that to be the case. Ms. Peterson believes my painting stands out as one of the finest in the class. I'm not surprised, Alexander said as he stepped into the room. He perched on the edge of her bed, observing the way the space had evolved in recent weeks. What was once a sterile guest room now brimmed with signs of life, drawings adorning the walls, books piled on nightstands, and a stuffed bear tucked among the pillows. The board chose not to terminate your position? Olivia inquired abruptly. Alexander blinked, taken aback by the straightforward inquiry. Were you aware of that? She gave a slight nod. I overheard your conversation with Ms. Rebecca. She mentioned that they could be quite upset. He conceded that they were. They continue to be, in fact. However, they chose not to let me go. Is it because you hold such significance? Alexander pondered this. Partially, but also because I discovered an alternative approach, a method to accomplish the Singapore work without physically being in Singapore. Olivia appeared to ponder this. A middle ground. Precisely. She resumed arranging her supplies, yet Alexander could feel an underlying concern still weighing on her. What thoughts are swirling in your head, Olivia? With a moment of uncertainty, she finally slipped her hand beneath the pillow and retrieved a neatly folded piece of paper. I created this, but I wasn't certain if it would be of interest to you. Alexander took the drawing, gently unfolding it with a sense of anticipation. His breath hitched at the visual representation. Olivia and he stood hand in front of their building, the sun casting a warm glow above them. It was straightforward, yet it carried a profound sense of optimism. This is. He sought the perfect word. Flawless. After enduring her nightmare, Olivia finally wore a smile that illuminated her eyes. Is that so? Truly. Alexander examined the drawing once more. What reason would I have to decline it? She shrugged, her interest in her art supplies rekindled in an instant. My mother often remarked that you prefer to maintain a clear boundary between your personal life and other aspects. The keen observation, both precise and piercing, caused Alexander to flinch. Vanessa grasped his essence with remarkable clarity, perhaps even more so than he had come to understand his own being. He spoke thoughtfully, acknowledging that his mother had been correct about numerous matters. Yet, transformation is possible for individuals. Olivia. I am making an effort to. That evening, Alexander embarked on an extraordinary endeavor. He departed from work ahead of schedule and treated Olivia to ice cream in the park. Seated on a bench, observing the joggers and dog walkers meandering past, Alexander began to share stories from his own childhood with her. The demanding father who prioritized success above everything else. The weight of expectation to achieve. The solitude that comes from learning to view emotions as vulnerabilities. Is that the reason behind your constant work? Olivia inquired, savoring her chocolate cone. In part, Alexander conceded. When you dedicate your entire existence to validation, it becomes challenging to discern when to pause. Mom mentioned that you might be feeling a bit isolated in that large building of yours. Alexander almost sputtered on his frozen dessert. Did she really say that? Olivia gave a subtle nod. She didn't harbor any anger towards you. She merely remarked that you still haven't grasped the crucial elements. Alexander gazed at his daughter, astonished by how perceptively Vanessa had penetrated the meticulously crafted illusion of his achievements. And here stood their child, embodying her mother's wisdom and insight. Presenting him with an opportunity for redemption that he had not earned but profoundly required. She was indeed correct, he murmured gently. I felt a profound sense of isolation. I simply wasn't aware of it. Later that evening, Alexander transferred Olivia's drawing from his desk to the wall in the living room. A notable location easily seen by all who came in. It transcended mere art. It was a proclamation. A vow. A fresh persona emerging. Upon Rebecca's arrival the following morning, armed with acquisition documents that needed his signature, she instantly spotted the drawing. Beautiful piece, she remarked. My daughter made it, Alexander replied, the words resonating in a way that nothing in business ever had. As ominous clouds loomed on the horizon, Alexander meticulously adjusted his tie in the mirror. Today held significance. Olivia's exhibition of artistic talent at Westridge Academy. Subsequent to the declaration of his conciliatory strategy regarding the Singapore acquisition. He had planned with great care for both. Resolute in fulfilling his responsibilities as a parent and leader. Do you feel anxious? He inquired, discovering Olivia in the kitchen adorned in the blue dress they had selected together for the event. She nodded, her fingers nervously toying with a slice of toast. What if no one appreciates my painting? Then they have terrible taste in art, Alexander replied, his confidence bringing a smile to her face. However, that is unlikely to occur. Your work is outstanding. The moment seemed ordinary. Home-based. A dad comforting his little girl ahead of an important day. Alexander was captivated by the effortless nature of these interactions. Just weeks prior, he had been immobilized by doubt regarding her. His phone vibrated with a sudden jolt. Rebecca's name illuminated the screen. Mr. Reynolds. Her voice carried a palpable tension. A situation has arisen. This requires your immediate attention. Is it possible to postpone this until after the showcase? Alexander inquired, casting a sidelong glance at Olivia. Regrettably, that's not the case. Carter Williams has arrived with the legal documents in hand. He asserts that he is Vanessa's brother and is seeking custody of Olivia. Alexander felt a chill seep through him. I'll be there shortly. Do not share any information until I get there. He concluded the conversation, thoughts swirling in his head. Vanessa seldom mentioned her family. They had cast her aside when she chose to follow her passion for art rather than continue in the family business. Throughout their entire time together, Alexander had yet to encounter any of them. Is everything all right? Olivia inquired, observing his demeanor. Alexander paused for a moment, then lowered himself to meet her gaze. I need to address a situation at the office prior to your showcase. Rebecca will escort you to school. I assure you I'll arrive before your presentation begins. Olivia's expression dimmed a bit. Yet she nodded with a weary acceptance that shattered his heart. I completely understand if you can't make it. I will be there, Alexander declared with conviction. Consider it a commitment. In his office downtown, Alexander confronted Carter Williams, a man with sharp features and a cold demeanor that stood in stark contrast to Vanessa's warmth. Embrace. Mr. Reynolds, Williams started directly, without any introduction. I am here to address a situation that should never have taken place. My niece deserves to be with family, not with someone who ignored her for 8 years. Alexander exerted himself to keep his calm demeanor. What was your location during Vanessa's illness? When Olivia found herself in need of her family the most. Williams's expression grew steely. My sister has made her choice. Yet, blood is still blood, and Olivia is undeniably a Williams. Our family possesses the means and foundation to nurture her appropriately. Are you suggesting you want to manage her like you attempted to manage Vanessa? Alexander responded. You possess no legal rights beyond temporary guardianship, Williams stated, pushing the documents across the desk. Our petition highlights the challenges of your career, your limited experience in parenting, and the unsuitable conditions of Olivia's present living environment. With a somber demeanor, Alexander's lawyer examined the documents. An emergency hearing is being requested for next week. They've meticulously detailed your travel itinerary, work commitments, and recent board disputes as proof of inconsistency. It dawned on Alexander that they had been observing us. The photographers and the news stories weren't merely sensational material, they served as powerful tools. I will resist this, Alexander declared. His voice was eerily tranquil. With all that I possess, you will be defeated, Williams responded icily. The courts tend to prioritize blood relatives, particularly those who embody conventional family dynamics. My spouse and I have nurtured 3 kids. What background do you possess beyond the recent weeks of engaging in domestic activities? The allegation hurt deeply, as it held a grain of truth within it. Alexander had recently embraced fatherhood, having taken on the role for just under a month. What authority did he possess to assert that he understood what was best for Olivia? Yet, he couldn't shake the image of her nightmares, the careful smile she wore, the drawings that spoke volumes, and the way she had started to trust him, both tentatively and with a quiet bravery. He recalled the vow he made just this morning, along with all the commitments he planned to uphold in the years to come. You may share her blood, Alexander said softly, but you are not truly her family. I exist. Once Williams departed, Alexander's attorney spoke candidly. This will be a challenge. Their case holds weight when viewed through a conventional legal lens. Alexander glanced at his watch. The showcase is set to commence in 40 minutes. Gather everything we require. I need to be somewhere at this moment. He made his entrance at Westridge Academy just in time, quietly finding his way into the auditorium adorned with the vibrant creations of young artists. He discovered Olivia poised anxiously next to her artwork, the lighthouse on a precipice, resilient against the looming tempest. He grasped the metaphor fully. You came, she said, a wave of relief sweeping across her features. I made a commitment to do so. Alexander sank to one knee beside her. This is remarkable, Olivia. Her painting was nothing short of extraordinary. The viewpoint, the manipulation of illumination, the depth of feeling that transcends her age. A modest group had assembled nearby, featuring the art instructor who radiated with pride. Ms. Peterson informed Alexander that she possesses her mother's talent. Vanessa would surely beam with pride. As Olivia articulated her vision behind the painting to the judges and visitors, Alexander observed her confidence blossoming. In this space, she thrived, conveying through her creations what often eluded her in speech. As he observed her, an intense urge to shield her enveloped him, a sensation he had never experienced before. When her name was announced for first place in her age group, Alexander's applause resonated the strongest in the room. The smile Olivia offered him as she accepted her ribbon held a value greater than any business deal he had ever finalized. Later that evening, while they indulged in ice cream at home, Alexander felt a pressing need to share the news about the custody challenge. She was entitled to the truth. Olivia, he started with caution. We have an important matter to address. Your uncle has stepped up. He desires for you to reside with him and his family. Olivia froze, her spoon suspended in midair. I possess an uncle. It seems that way, Alexander affirmed. He believes you ought to be with family members. Did mother ever mention him? Alexander paused, uncertainty flickering in his eyes. Not a great deal. They were not intimate. Olivia placed her spoon on the table, a look of concern crossing her face. Must I accompany him? No, Alexander stated with conviction. Not if I can help it. However, there will be discussions with legal professionals, and possibly even a magistrate. Questions will arise regarding your experience of residing here alongside me. She nodded slowly, absorbing the information. Will they inquire about my happiness? Most likely. What if I agree? That I wish to remain by your side? Alexander felt a constriction in his throat. That will assist, yet it's quite intricate. Many factors will be taken into account. Olivia fell silent for a while, then spoke up in a soft voice. What if they ask me to go? With a gentle motion, Alexander extended his arm across the table, capturing her hand in his grasp. Olivia, I assure you of this. I will exhaust every effort to ensure you remain here, where you truly belong. Some individuals believe that DNA defines the essence of a family. However, they are mistaken. Family is defined by those who support you unwaveringly. Who looks out for you? Who prioritizes you? As you did today, she murmured gently. Attending my showcase, despite all the challenges. Precisely in that manner, Alexander concurred. And that's precisely what I shall continue to do, regardless of the circumstances. As the night deepened and Olivia settled into her slumber, Alexander found himself in his office, reaching out to the top family law attorneys across the nation. The struggle for custody would prove to be challenging. It might just be the most formidable obstacle he has ever encountered. The Williams family possessed wealth, power, and the burden of conventional ideals in their favor. Yet Alexander Reynolds had always stood his ground in the face of adversity. He had never battled for something as significant as this. Upon receiving Rebecca's call regarding the board's reaction to his Singapore compromise, Alexander kept his remarks succinct. Advise them to manage it in whatever way they deem appropriate. At this moment, I have a more urgent matter to attend to. For the first time in his life, Alexander Reynolds found himself not merely constructing an empire. He was battling for his loved ones. The courtroom exuded a sense of sterility and chill as Alexander adjusted his tie, bracing himself for the pivotal negotiation that lay ahead. In contrast to the boardroom, where he wielded unquestioned power, in this setting he found himself merely another supplicant, vulnerable to the whims of the system. For a fortnight, the struggle for custody had infiltrated every facet of his existence. Board meetings were assigned, and the Singapore acquisition progressed without his direct participation. In a historic move for Reynolds Enterprise, Alexander officially enacted his emergency succession plan, appointing Rebecca as the acting CEO while he dedicated his efforts to securing Olivia. Everyone stood as the bailiff announced the arrival of Judge Martinez into the courtroom. Alexander cast a glance at Olivia, who was seated with her court-appointed advocate in the front row. She appeared diminutive in her navy dress, her blonde hair neatly secured, her eyes wide as she absorbed the grandeur of the imposing room. Carter Williams and his wife embodied an ideal representation of conventional family values. Their attorney promptly showcased their credentials. Your Honor, my clients have nurtured and guided 3 remarkable children into adulthood. They enjoy a solid partnership, deep connections within their community, and a family residence that provides ample room for Olivia to flourish. Above all, they possess a connection to the child through shared blood, a bond that Mr. Reynolds neither has nor can assert. When Williams took the stand, he spoke with an air of practiced sincerity. Our only desire is to ensure the best for our niece. Mr. Reynolds prioritizes his role as a businessman above all else. His way of life encompasses frequent journeys, erratic schedules, and a relentless pursuit of business achievement that allows scant opportunity for nurturing his children. Alexander's lawyer presented evidence of the adjustments he had implemented, the revised work schedule, the petition for permanent guardianship, and the college fund set up in Olivia's name. Yet Alexander could perceive uncertainty in the judge's gaze. When it was his moment to speak, Alexander set aside the meticulously prepared statement his attorneys had devised. Rather, he expressed himself straight from his soul. "Your Honor, I won't claim to be an ideal father. 8 weeks ago, I was unaware of my daughter's existence. I have erred numerous times. Each day has brought new lessons and experiences for me." He took a moment, collecting his ideas. However, there is an aspect that the Williams family fails to grasp. Parenting is not about achieving perfection. It revolves around the concept of choice. Since the moment Olivia entered my world, I've made a conscious decision to choose her every single day. I have decided to stand by her side. She endures nightmares to discover her favorite breakfast cereal while sitting through animated movies that baffle me. Alexander shifted a bit in Olivia's direction, captivated by the unwavering gaze she held on him. "I decided to go to her art showcase rather than fly to Singapore for the most significant deal of my career. I decided to take a step back from managing my business to advocate for her in this courtroom. And if the opportunity arises, I will continue to select her. Above all else, above wealth, above everything for the entirety of my existence." He faced the judge once more. The Williams family might have Olivia's genetic makeup, yet they remain unaware that she keeps her mother's photograph beside her bed as she sleeps. Unbeknownst to them, she hums softly while she paints, reminiscent of Vanessa's own rhythm. They remain unaware of her courage and compassion and more intelligent than many adults I encounter. His voice faltered just a bit. They assert that blood binds them as family, yet they were absent when Vanessa was taking her last breaths. In Olivia's moments of solitude, they were absent. I might have arrived in her life at a later stage, yet I am present now, and I intend to stay. The room was enveloped in a hush as he concluded his words. Even Williams appeared uneasy. The crucial turning point arrived when Rebecca made an unforeseen request to take the stand. She unveiled a timeline detailing Alexander's evolution. From the instant he received Olivia's note, every decision he made thereafter was centered around prioritizing his daughter. She concluded that she had collaborated with Mr. Reynolds for 7 years. During that period, I've observed him construct a vast enterprise with unwavering determination. Yet, nothing, neither sealing billion-dollar deals nor receiving industry accolades, has ever brought him as true a sense of joy as being a father to Olivia. As the judge announced a short break to deliberate on her decision, Alexander found himself kneeling before Olivia in the corridor. Regardless of the challenges ahead, he vowed, we will confront them side by side. At last, after the long and arduous custody battle, Olivia embraced him, her arms encircling his neck. "I understand," she murmured. Alexander lingered in the doorway of Olivia's room, a coffee mug cradled in his hand, observing the way the morning sunlight danced through the curtains they had selected together. The area appeared completely transformed from how it was 2 months prior. Soft blue walls embraced the space, while shelves brim with books and art supplies, and a bulletin board showcases a collage of drawings and cherished mementos. It had transformed from merely a room in his house into Olivia's sanctuary. Olivia sat cross-legged on her bed, lost in her sketches, her blonde hair cascading over her face, evoking a striking resemblance to Vanessa that stirred a deep ache in his chest. She was completely engrossed in her work, oblivious to his presence. The week following the court's decision ushered in a tranquility that neither had known until now. Judge Martinez awarded Alexander permanent custody, highlighting Olivia's evident preference and the remarkable effort and adjustments Alexander had made. The Williams family, clearly affected, had withdrawn, humbled by the compelling testimony and evidence of Alexander's dedication. "Good morning, artist," Alexander said gently. Olivia lifted her gaze, her expression lighting up. "I'm creating something for your office. Is this yet another gem to add to my collection?" He entered the room with a smile. She nodded, yet maintained the sketchbook at an angle that obscured its contents. It's unexpected. His phone vibrated in his pocket, the fourth occurrence in the last hour. The board was keenly anticipating his complete return, the Singapore acquisition was advancing more swiftly than expected, and investors were urgently seeking confirmation that Reynolds Enterprises was still under competent management. Alexander muted the device, disregarding the message entirely. Fluffy stacks of pancakes. He proposed an alternative. Accompanied by blueberries. Olivia's eyes sparkled with excitement. Are there alternative options available? In the kitchen, they flowed with a seamless rhythm that would have seemed unfathomable just weeks prior. Olivia carefully measured the ingredients as Alexander warmed the griddle. As they toiled, he reflected on the deep transformation of his priorities. The once dominant figure in the corporate world, who meticulously planned his days in 15-minute blocks, now found joy in dedicating an entire hour to crafting uniquely shaped pancakes alongside an 8-year-old. The individual who once insisted on flawlessness from those in his orbit now embraced the delightful chaos of familial existence. Are there significant meetings on your agenda today? Olivia inquired, delicately placing blueberries into the mixture. With a swift motion, Alexander tossed the pancake into the air before responding. Everything can hold off for now. Is it due to my actions? A trace of concern laced her voice. Alexander pivoted to meet her gaze. As I've come to understand. Something, Olivia. Tasks will always be present. The company can endure even if I take a morning off. Yet these instances, preparing breakfast alongside you, listening to your day's stories, witnessing your growth. These moments are fleeting. Olivia regarded this with a serious expression. My mother often remarked that time is the most precious gift one can offer another. Your mother possessed great wisdom, Alexander remarked gently. While they enjoyed their breakfast, Olivia passed him a neatly folded piece of paper. I created. This is for you. As Alexander unfolded it, he discovered a meticulously crafted family tree. This task, in stark contrast to the previous school assignment that had brought her so much turmoil, felt entirely different. At the pinnacle was Vanessa, her name encircled by delicate painted blossoms. Below were Alexander and Olivia, their names intertwined with beautifully crafted branches. It is stunning, he remarked, gliding his finger along the contours. Miss Peterson provided her assistance to me. She mentioned that family trees can take any shape we desire. Olivia gestured towards a delicate inscription nestled at the bottom. This section is written in Mom's script. In the corner lay a phrase that Alexander recalled from one of Vanessa's letters. True affection isn't discovered in extravagant displays but in the small, everyday decisions we make. Olivia revealed that she discovered it in her journal. I believe she is likely content at this moment. Alexander sensed the gravity of those words. The grace extended, the embrace received. Against all odds, the family came together. That afternoon, Alexander finally took the plunge on a decision he had been mulling over for weeks. He convened a board meeting and declared his plan to redefine his position at Reynolds Enterprises. He would continue as chairman, offering strategic guidance, but would withdraw from daily operations to prioritize his role as a father. Some of you might perceive this as a retreat, he informed the astonished board members. I perceive it as a progression towards what genuinely holds significance. As the sun dipped below the horizon, Alexander and Olivia found themselves on the balcony of their penthouse, gazing out at the sprawling cityscape. Twinkling lights emerge as dusk settles in. Do you long for the days of constant work? Olivia inquired, resting against the railing. Alexander pondered the inquiry. At times, I long for the clarity. Challenges in business come with answers. Individuals possess greater complexity. Do you appreciate me? She inquired, a faint smile gracing her lips. Especially you, he playfully remarked, softly tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. Yet, that is precisely what adds value to the experience. Olivia's demeanor shifted to one of gravity. There are moments when I feel a deep longing for my mom. I understand, Alexander replied gently. I regret not being there earlier, for the two of you. Yet, here you are now, she responded plainly. In that moment, Alexander Reynolds, a man who had devoted decades to erecting towers of glass and steel, amassing wealth and power, and convinced that these were the hallmarks of success, finally grasped the essence of true richness. It wasn't discovered in corporate offices or financial statements. It resided in the warmth of pancake breakfasts, the creativity of art projects, the magic of bedtime stories, and the gentle grasp of small hands reaching for his. It thrived in second chances he hadn't earned but was granted nonetheless. As Olivia intertwined her fingers with his, Alexander gazed out at the vast empire he commanded. Constructed. Then down at the young girl who had transformed everything. The decision between them was devoid of any real options. His most significant accomplishment would remain unrecorded in any financial statement or business publication. It stood there, just next to him. Grasping. His hand revealed the essence of what it truly meant to return home.